So, I'm here to give you a merchandising masterclass. I thought I'd start by talking a little bit about myself first and just let you all know why I've been called here. So I basically go around and I help other stores, retailers, improve their merchandising, which has an effect on their sales. So if you can harness your skills and make your product look amazing and give it a wow factor, then people will want to buy it, and therefore the retailer will order more and you're going to line your pockets quicker. So I just wanted to know if you understand what I mean when I say merchandising. Does anybody understand what that is? Okay. So, oops. When I was 15, I started in retail. I have been working in Sainsbury's, the supermarket, and I thought that's probably quite relevant to all of you. I was the youngest ever department manager for Sainsbury's, which was quite exciting at the age of 16. Yeah, so I've been doing this a long time now. So hopefully I'll be able to give you some of the skills I've learned over the last nearly 18 years and impart them on you today. Some other people I've worked with are fashion brands, H&M, I think you have them here, Monsoon Accessorize, Next as well. So quite big fashion brands, and now I'm working with a bike shop in the UK called Spokes of Bag Shop, which is very different, but the skills you learn with merchandising, you can then move them to every kind of aspect of retail. It doesn't just have to be food. So it's it's a really cool skill to have for the future, because you might decide that your brands would like to grow and maybe you want to move them in a new direction, and you'll be able to take the skills I teach you today and hopefully be able to use them forever, because I've been doing it for 18 years. I'm sure you guys can do it for longer. Yes, so that's me. So today we're going to cover merchandising, obviously, to start with, and how and what it is. Then I'm going to go on to the customer experience and the consumer psychology behind merchandising and why we do what we do and why we display things the way we do, and then what effect that has on your sales. Then we'll talk through selling your product and how you are going to increase your sales and get your product into a shop, and how you want it to look in the shops, because you're in control, it's your product, so you must make sure that you go in strong with a good understanding of those things. Then we'll talk through retailers, how to talk to them, what you want from them, how you want them to perform, and how to treat them, because the better you treat them, the better they're going to perform for you. Then we'll have a summary, and you can ask me some questions. And then I thought, hopefully, we're going to go to a supermarket and we're going to actually do some actual merchandising together, which will be quite exciting, hopefully. Okay. So what I mean when I say merchandising, it's essentially a skill to display your product in the best possible way, so then capture the consumer's attention for them to pick it up, put it in their basket and buy it at the till. Because the goal is obviously to sell more, because the more your consumer buys, the better your business will be, the more you can grow, and hopefully you can all make a nice living, which is obviously the goal. And the key to good merchandising is having a really powerful effect. You don't want to just sit back and say, right, I've sent it to that shop, I'll leave it there, I'll let the retailer get on with it. You want to really push your product, and so your eye, when you walk into, do you have Lidl here? What's a good name of a supermarket, like a big supermarket here? Stockman.
Maxima is like a big chain.
Maxima. So let's say all your dreams come true. Maxima say, we're going to buy your product. And that's fantastic. And you think, yes. And then you sit back and you go, oh, that's great. My job's done. It's not done. You need to go into that retailer. You need to tool them with tools that they can make your product look great. You give them all your energy, and then they will respect you for giving them energy and giving your time. And then therefore they will then push your product, because they say, you believe in your product. I believe in you. I'm going to sell your product. And you keep having that open conversation, that lots and lots of communication between you, and build a rapport and build a relationship. Does that make sense? Okay. Am I going too fast? No? Okay, good. Sorry. So all businesses use merchandising. Like, there's no business on the planet that is selling that doesn't use merchandising. Even all supermarkets use it, because you go into the supermarket and you know that they have planned their floor layout to your needs, to the consumer needs. And so when you go in, you'll see there's usually a lunch area, sandwiches, and next to sandwiches are crisps, and next to that is like your chocolate bars or your yogurts or something that you would have for lunch. And so it's a one-stop destination. That's all designed so you don't just go in for one sandwich and leave spending €2. You go in and you spend €10, because they've designed it that you walk past all these things. And therefore, it's all part of the business. Is merchandising has a massive effect on the end result, which is sales. Merchandising is positioning your product in the simplest, most effective way. So it's got to be simple, because you don't want loads going on in your eyesight. You're going to just get confused. You don't know what your product is. If your branding's not on point, they won't know what they're picking up. You need them to walk past the product, it to catch their eye, but then you need them to pick it up. And you need it to stand out more than any other brand, which sounds hard, but it's really not. It's just learning your consumer, learning about your customer, and then you'll be able to harness what you need to make your brand stand out. And then even in this busy digital age, people are using merchandising. So if you looked at H&M's website, I know it's clothing, but you can see that they have all these models dressed in beautiful clothing, and then underneath they put together a full wardrobe for you that you can literally buy exactly what the model's wearing, and then it will come up and it says other people have also bought this. That's all merchandising, because they're pushing you towards buying what they want you to buy, because they've already put their order in a year ago, which obviously you guys are going to be doing. So you go to your factory and you say, I'm going to sell 10,000 units of this. Well, you then need to gear your customers to buying that one, because you've already put in your order of 10,000, you see? So you don't want to be left holding 9,000 of them and going, oh, why didn't that go? But another flavour, let's say, of your energy powder does sell really well, but you haven't ordered 10,000 of that one, you've only ordered 5. So you need to flip it and make the focus of the 10,000 one. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. And then obviously getting brand awareness for your brand in the stores is something we call POS, which is point of sale. Don't know if you understand what that is, what you would call it here, but it's so, when you walk along in a supermarket, you sometimes have floor things that say maybe a special offer, or you have cards hanging down from the ceiling pointing you towards a specific product. We'll get on to points of sale and how it's worth investing in point of sale products, because ultimately it's money worth spending, because it always reaps rewards. Okay, so here's a fun example of how I feel that merchandising has been done badly. So if you look up at the top, you can see how the producer of that food hasn't cared how it's going to stack. So you have to think about that when you're making your boxes or your bags that your product's going to go in. You have to think, how is the retailer going to display my product? And you have to get a retailer who's going to actually look after your product. You don't want your items to look like this. You don't want them just dishevelled on the shop floor, looking unloved and uncared for. You need to find yourself a retailer who believes in your product and isn't going to treat your stock like this. And also you need to have stock that you've thought through, that can it stack nicely? How do you want it to look on the shelf? Because ultimately, the way you design your packaging is how it's going to look on the shelf, because it needs to be quick to put out on the shelf for the retailer, because they don't have time to make it, you know, fancy. And if it's a silly shaped box, they're not going to be able to put it out. But by you thinking it through and making their job that little bit easier, your item will always look amazing. Like, hopefully, like this. So for example, the tins, every single tin here is front facing, and you can see just by walking past what you're buying. They've moved the shelves to fit the stock in, so this shelf is only small because there's only small items on here. This space as well is small because they've changed the way their display works to fit the product, rather than in the previous slide, the shelves are just evenly spaced and they're just launching it on and they don't think about how it looks. Whereas here you can see they've really thought through, right, this product will fit on this shelf and we'll give them X amount of space, how many centimetres. You have to do that planning for them as well sometimes. You have to work out, right, my product needs 5 centimetres this way and 30 centimetres that way, and I want 2 per shelf and I want them to go back 6. Things like that, when you're designing your packaging, really make a difference, those few centimetres, because you won't be able to fit them on. Even if that was just 5 centimetres too big, that whole packaging won't sit on the shelf properly. And you have to think that through right at the very, very beginning of the design process and the packaging. Yeah. And is your product easy to find? Again, this comes here, because the brand that sticks out of all of that is this one. It's so bold. I see this over all the others. So if I'm walking down, I spot this. It's just some rubbish company that make dumplings, you know, for stews and things. But they catch my eye, so I'm going to look at that one. And I'm going to pick that one up. And when I pick that one up, I'm signalling to the retailer and the people working on the shop floor, I like it. Because by picking it up, I've just shown them a signal. And so then they spot me picking it up and they'll come over and they'll say, hello, how are you? Do you need any help? And then they already know that I like this product, and then they can advise me what might go with that product. Or maybe there's a special offer, or they could tell me the price. Or, yeah, there's a multitude of things. But by just picking it up and having a look, that immediately is giving your retailer a signal that they want to buy. And then that's going to take us on to the customer experience. So just looking at this picture just for a second, this is just a supermarket in England where I sometimes go. And the first thing, this is the entrance. So before I'm even in the shop, I'm standing outside and I'm taking a picture of the inside. The first thing you see is their huge display of Valentine's things. So you want to get your product on that display, because that's the first thing you see when you walk in the store, and that's the first thing that all the other customers are going to see when they walk in the store. So I'm not saying all your brands are for Valentine's, but you will work out what is a good time of year that your product sells most. Let's say it's a health food or a health drink or fresh juice. That's going to sell really well in January because everybody's detoxing and feeling fat over Christmas, and they all go, oh, I better go on a diet, because we all do. And then they all give up in February. So you want your product at the front of the store in January. And so you want it on that stand there. You don't want to settle for second best, you want it there. And so that's where your rapport with your retailer comes in. You're going to build a relationship with your retailer so you can ask for that position right there, and you won't settle for anything else. And then the way a store is laid out as well, we'll come to that. That's all in the customer experience as well. So the beginning, your first impression. So when you first walked into that store, what is your first impression? kind of store do you want your product to be in? Do you want your product to be in quite a high-end shopping experience, or do you want it to be in a pound shop, in a value brand? Because that's fine too, because you'll still sell units, but it's where do you see it? There's no point putting a value brand in a very high-end store, and vice versa. There's no point putting a very high-end product in a value shop where they're going to try and push it for €2, but actually you believe you could sell it for €8 if you put it in a different supermarket. So the first impressions for a customer are very important. Where you push your brand tells the consumer already what class of product it is, how good it is, how bad it is, how fine it is, just by choosing the correct supermarket. Then your human interaction is very important, obviously, in every consumer. Your products, I mean, yes, you can sell them online, but when you're selling in a supermarket, you want to be in a supermarket that believes in your product and also has knowledge about your product, which we will come on to shortly. And you need to make sure that the human interaction in the store you choose is really good. You want to be able to walk into the store and say to somebody, I'm looking for an orange juice, and you want them to be able to say, I'll take you to the orange juice, take them to the orange juice, and you want them to pick up your brand of orange juice, not Tropicana. You want them to pick up your brand, and so then you need to train your retailer so then they pick it up and they say, this is my favourite, why don't you give it a try? And by the retailer saying, I believe in this product, the consumer then trusts that retailer and they will buy that product just from that one recommendation. And then hopefully they'll go home, they'll love it, and then they'll recommend it to a friend, and then so on and so forth. And so your whole consumer base grows. The store layout is very important when planning where you would like your product to be. You have to think about how the consumer travels around a supermarket. If they're there for a weekly shop, they'll go up and down every single aisle. If they're there just for lunch, they'll just go to the lunch area and leave. And where is your product best based? And then that takes you to, is your product easy to find? You don't want your product on the bottom shelf of anywhere, in any shop, because nobody looks on the bottom shelf. The things on the bottom shelf are bulk buy items like 6 kilograms of sugar or flour. You don't want to be down the bottom. You need yours in the sight lines, which we'll get onto shortly. You need your product here, not down there. Maybe higher, but never low. Never, ever, ever. You must always push your retailer. And then another thing for you to think about when you're choosing which supermarket you want to be in is, how does the store experience make your consumer feel, and also you? So before you sign up with a supermarket, make sure you go in as a customer and see how you feel when you're in that supermarket. There's no point just signing on the dotted line with anybody who will take you. You want to be in a store that really believes in you and your product, and also has the same brand message as you. So you want to be, if you're a health food item, you want to be in a company that really believes in health foods. If you're a very high-end item, you want to be in a high-end supermarket that will reflect your beliefs in your product. You don't want to have a mismatch, because then that's confusing for the consumer, and also it's going to reflect badly in your sales ultimately. And then the outcome is what makes a customer buy or fly, I called it. So whether or not they're actually they might put it in their basket, but by the time they get to the till, they might have changed their mind because something else has caught their eye on the way. So what makes the customer keep it in their basket? And that comes under customer psychology, which we'll get to. And then if your consumer does have a great experience and they really enjoy your product, they are much more likely to go online. You need to push them to go onto social media and tweet about it, Instagram it, Facebook it, Snapchat it. You want your consumer to spread the word for you about your brand. You don't want to just be sat at home saying, oh, nobody knows about my product. It's because you're not pushing it, and you need your consumer to believe in it as well. So maybe you could run a competition. If you, once a month, somebody could get a free pack of your product if they give feedback on Instagram, and you'll say, I'll choose somebody at random. If you tweet about me, you could win a prize. And then you could run that across the whole of social media, and hopefully you'll get 10,000 people talking about your product within the space of just a few months. But you have to obviously feed that back and make sure you are giving back to your consumer and giving a prize. And then you could even have a picture of the person who won the prize, and again you tag them in it, they'll tag their friends, and so on and so forth. Social media is a huge platform, and you need to obviously harness how amazing that could be for your business. And by doing that, you will create a loyal following, and that's what you really, really want. You want a loyal customer. You don't want a customer that's just going to buy it because it's on special offer, or just buy it because it's new. Once you've got them and they've bought it that first time, how do you convert them to being a loyal customer? And that is really, really key, because I'm sure you all have products that you buy every week in your food basket at home. So what makes you buy that one and not the other one? Why haven't you tried something else? And it's because you've become loyal to that brand or that product. And that is key to all of your businesses, no matter what it is you're selling. So we're going to move on to consumer psychology, and by understanding the consumer psychology, we can effectively convince the consumer to buy, essentially, by all the things I've just said. That is basically what you're doing, and what all retailers do is they're convincing you to buy something. They're not saying, oh, I'll just put all this on the shelf and what sells will sell. They're not doing that at all. They're sitting down like you are now, and they're planning, and they're working out, what can I sell, how much can I sell of it, and how I will get the customer to put that in their basket. So one aspect every business does forget is consumer psychology. And just like different products, there are different types of consumers and they have different motivations. So I've done a profile of 4 different ones. There's probably a lot more than that, but I've kind of tried to shrink it down for today. And then you need to tailor your merchandising towards your consumer, and then that will maximize your sales. So you have to think, there is a lot of research that goes on before you get your product on the shelf, which can feel quite frustrating at the time because you're just so hungry to get it out there. But don't underestimate how vital this planning stage is, and how lucky you all are that you're sitting here and you've got this time to prepare and plan ready for your future. Because if you can listen to myself and the other people that come in and talk to you, and you really take on board some of the lessons we're teaching you, I promise you will make massive, massive returns, because you just can't underestimate the planning process that comes into it before you get it out there. So, like I said before, everything is done for a reason. Let's have a think about a supermarket. So, in August, you'll start seeing things about Christmas, and you think, oh my gosh, it's so early. Why would you do that? But it's getting into your psyche already. Christmas is coming, and then come September, you'll get your pay packet in September, and you'll start buying Christmas things. Not everybody, obviously, but you might pick things up, or you'll start planning, and all already you've got a little space in your head that's saying, Christmas is coming, I need to buy for Christmas. And that's where consumer psychology comes in. You need to plan for these events. You need to plan so you know that in the summer holidays, certain items go up in sales because mums and dads are buying them for going on picnics, or in the winter people are buying more hot chocolate, for example, because it's cold outside. We all love hot chocolate. But if you can work out that pattern of how your product sells, then you can work out how you're going to make sure that they buy your hot chocolate over Nestle or Cadbury. You want them to pick yours, and by knowing the patterns and the shifts in sales, you'll be able to push your product before the next company does, or you put yours on offer the week before anybody else does. So that's why it always feels that Christmas is coming so early, it's because everybody's slowly inching forward, so then they're first in line. You want your product first in line. You don't want somebody to go down the road and buy it elsewhere. So I've done the consumer profiles. Oh, hello. Okay. So we start with the loyal customer, which I touched on before. They're valuable to every single business. And once you have found the right company, they will remain loyal. So once they've found your product and they've enjoyed your product and they've loved it and they've raved about it, they then become your loyal base. And then what they will do is they will spread the word, and then those people will become your loyal customers, and then they'll spread the word. And so basically what you want to do is you want to convert all your other customers to loyal customers. But to invite a loyal customer in, you can't pull them away if they're already loyal to somebody else. So sometimes what you might have to do is start with a discount customer, somebody who loves a bargain, somebody who really loves to go and get something on buy one, get one free or 50% off. And these people, they hunt around for discounts. And then if you have a sale going on, you need to let those type of customer know, because they're going to buy into your product because they're all about saving money. They're all about the discounts. And then once you've got them hooked, you can convert them into a loyal customer, but not until you've got them hooked. Then you have your impulsive customer. They often don't shop with a specific brand in mind, rather they buy when something strikes their fancy. So these are the customers that pick stuff up. You know, at the till point, you've got bits and pieces while you're stood in the queue of the till. They're the people that will pick those bits off. The chewing gum, the chocolate bars, the magazines are all at the till, aren't they? So they're your impulsive customer. And so you need to get your product to the till point to then sell to your impulsive customer. And then you're going to convert them to a loyal customer, because they're going to fall in love with your product and they're going to rave about it and they're going to social media about it, and then your base will grow. You see where I'm going with this? And then you have your need-based customer, who purchase to fulfill a need. So they're only going to buy your product because they need it. So they're going to buy your slimming shake in January because they need to lose weight. They're going to buy your hot chocolate in the winter because they need it because it's cold outside. They're going to buy, what else? They're going to buy your, I'm trying to think of some of your brands. Your lollipops, because it's, yes, but they might need you need to also aim towards the need-based, because if somebody's holding a birthday party, they're going to need something to give out at the birthday party, and they're going to need your lollipops. And so where do you want to put your product? You're going to want to put it down the party aisle, as well as at the till for the impulsive customer, as well as, you know, so you don't want it just in one space in the supermarket. You have to get it dotted around, so then you're getting it to every type of customer, and then you're going to convert that customer to a loyal customer. And that's basically the best bit, because once you have your loyal customer, they will promote your brand for you, and then your work is nearly done. You can just reap the rewards. So we're going to move on to selling your product, and some of the things I just mentioned about where you want your product placed. This is a till point in a supermarket in the UK. And like I said before, you've got your magazines here. So people are queuing up here and they're standing there next to the magazines. They're going to impulse buy a magazine because they're bored in the queue, and they'll think, oh yeah, I might pick that up and read it later. I often do this. I never read the magazine. I get 3 pages in. I'm too busy. My life's too busy. I don't have time for magazines. But I'll spend €5 on a magazine and I never read. So it's very cleverly done. So that's good merchandising. Here, you've got one product that is repeated over and over and over and over again, which is meringues. Nobody knows why, but they've obviously ordered them in huge bulk load, and they're pushing them. And the chances are people stood in the queue here are going to pick them up, or walking along the end of an aisle are going to see them and go, oh, I'll grab some of those. That's a good price, 99 cents. It's really good. You see? So, and then here, you can see at the end of the till aisle, you've got chocolates, you've got all sorts of sweets, you've got energy bars here, you've got cakes and things, all for the impulsive customer, all there. So then you'll stand there and you'll think, oh gosh, I'm so hungry. I'll just grab that. I'll just grab that. And then you've got a screaming toddler in your pushchair with you as well, and you throw some chocolate at it because that'll shut it up for 5 minutes. And that's another €5 that the consumer's just spent, all because of where your product was placed. Where it was in the store totally and utterly does dictate how much you will sell. I'm not saying having it down the aisle you won't make some money. Great, you'll sell units. If you're selling a biscuit and it's down the biscuit aisle, yes, you're going to sell. But is it at the till point? Is it at other key locations in the store? You're not going to sell as much. Is that okay? Are we all still awake? Good. So this is where we move on to real estate, and where I think you really cannot underestimate where you're going to have your product in the store. The real estate in a store is much like buying a house in the centre of a city. So say you wanted to buy somewhere in the centre of Riga, it's very hard, and you're going to push to find the best place for you for your money. And the same is in a supermarket. You want the best position for your product, and you have to push your retailer. And it might be awkward at first because you think, oh gosh, he's already said he believes in my product, and now I'm pushing him to put it in a better place. They will ultimately respect you because you believe so wholeheartedly in your brand that you are willing to stand there and say, no, this isn't good enough, I want more. And yes, they might go, whoo, but ultimately they will respect your passion, and that is really important to get across. You must not let your brand be overlooked in the supermarket. You mustn't let it get overlooked in a marketplace at all. You want your retailer and the people who are selling your product for you to believe in your product just as much as you do. And by doing that, by being so passionate, you are helping that whole process start. And I'm sure you all believe that your brands deserve the best place. So don't keep that to yourself. Make sure you tell the retailer, my brand deserves better. My brand deserves the best place in the shop. My brand deserves to be at the till point. My brand deserves to be... Are you okay?
Yeah, I just had a little question.
Yeah.
No, I was just saying, basically, you see, obviously talking about that, and obviously you used the example of like real estate and things like that, like getting a place. Like nowadays, would you say that in retail, obviously, I think my product's the best like hot sauce in the market, but for it to be in the right place in this day and age, would you not be expended to just like spend a whole lot of money? And is it not about like your expenditure, for example, like a marketing budget with a retailer, for example?
No, because I understand the marketing side. Yes, you've got to plough money into marketing, and I totally get that. But where you choose to put your product, so we're going to put it in a good supermarket that's got a good reputation. So then a certain type of clientele are going to go to that supermarket. And then when you're in that supermarket, maybe they're just going there to pick up their lunch. And so they're going to go to the sandwich counter. Well, what is it you're selling?
Hot sauce.
Hot sauce. So let's say at the deli, or there's a salad bar, you could have little sachets of your product. You want that hanging next to the salad bar. So maybe not everybody likes hot sauce on their salad, or maybe they'd like it on their chicken at the deli. You could have it just hanging in small packets. So you'll have your big bottles down the aisle, but you want it on those little packets just there. So then when somebody picks up their salad, they go, oh yeah, I fancy some hot sauce with my salad today, or their jacket potato, or their hot chicken on the counter. It's about where you put it. So then even if they don't go in there to buy it, because when you're marketing, you're getting them to go into the supermarket to buy your item. This is about convincing the customer to buy when they didn't even know they wanted it. They didn't even know they were going into the supermarket to pick up your hot sauce. They were going into the supermarket to get their lunch. But you've just convinced them by having it hanging down next to the jacket potatoes and salad, they've picked it up. And that is one more product that you didn't sell yesterday. It's tiny little things like that you think, oh, she's talking rubbish. I'm really not. It sells and it sells and it sells. And those little ones, they're going to love your hot sauce on Monday in their lunch, and they're going to go out on Tuesday and they're going to buy the bottle. So not just a little packet. And then they're going to go home, and who are they going to tell? They're going to tell their wife and their kids and then their neighbour and their cousin and their brother and so and so and so on. And so that's what you want. By just having a tiny weeny packet at that point, it's the entrance into your product. Did that answer your question? Cool. Okay, so I've talked about real estate, so I'm going to show you a picture of a typical supermarket floor. I will give you all a copy of this later on. So you come in here and you've got your magazines like we talked about before. You've got your salad bar with your hot sauce on. You've got your deli. And so you've got to think about the foot traffic of the store. And it's quite hard, the first time of thinking about this, but you need to physically go into the supermarket and think about how is your customer actually walking around the store. So as a weekly shop, I'm going to come in the door and I'm going to go up and down with my list all the way along, and then I'm going to go to the tills. So key areas for a weekly shop customer are the ends of the aisle right here, because you've got people walking along here to the tills, you've got people walking along to the fruit and veg, and you've got people walking up and down the aisles, and they always walk past these end parts. No matter what's on the list, they're going to walk past the ends. And the same goes for up here, because you've got your dairy and your pharmacy. So even if I've come in the entrance and I'm just making a beeline for the pharmacy, I'm going to walk past 1, 2, 3, 4, all these items here that I didn't go in to buy, but your items on one of those ends, and they're going to pick up one of those items on that end, and hopefully it's going to be your item. Definitely. So, and then you've got your other consumer. Let's say they're going in just for one meal, we'll say lunch. So they're on their break from their office. They work 3 minutes down the road. They just want to be in and out really quick because they've only got an hour for lunch and they don't want to spend it wandering around. So they're going to come in, they're going to go to the deli or the salad bar, maybe the bakery, get themselves a nice roll for lunch, or maybe a croissant or something from the patisserie. And so let's have another product that you could have for lunch. Who else?
Fresh juice.
Fresh juice. So I would like your fresh juice to be in a cold fridge here, right here, next to the salad bar, because if I'm going to invest in a salad for lunch, I want to invest in a nice drink to go with my salad. And what goes better with salad than a decent, good glass of juice? So I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to go over to the till, and then I'm going to leave, in and out, bang, bang, bang. And so you have to think where your product can go just to try and pick out that one very quick customer, because like I said before with the hot sauce, if you can get them to buy it on their lunch break in a small bottle or a small packet or a sachet, then you can get them to then buy the bigger item later when they come in and they do their long big shop. And the same if they're doing their big shop online, you still want them to pick it up when they come in. And that's where I talk about real estate, the importance of it. So your best places for real estate in this particular store are on these ends here, because people queuing will be stood like that. You see, so this is your tills, and so people are stood, and when it's really busy, let's say Christmas, the queues are like horrible. So you want your product here on the end. So sometimes in supermarkets in Britain, there's little fridges on the end that have got Coca-Cola in. Well, get your orange juice in that fridge with Coca-Cola. Why not? You know, why not push for that position? So while people are stood there in the queue, a mum doesn't want to give their toddler Coca-Cola, does she? But the kid's like, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty. Annoying. So they pick up the orange juice and throw the orange juice at the kid. And that's what you want. You want them to do that. And then the kid loves it. The mum then loves it. And she basically loves you because you've just shut her child up. And then she's going to buy it in bulk load. She's not just going to buy one bottle every week. She's going to buy a pack of 6, pack of 8, or however you decide you're going to do it. And then she's bought into your brand just from that one sale of impulse buying. And then you've got to think about, I think, have I done all of it? Maybe I have. So yes, the key is product placement. And I know it's quite hard to wrap your head around thinking that you can go in and you can demand real estate. But if you've got the right product to go in that space, and you do downsize to fit next to a salad bar, or you do upgrade to fit into the big bulk buys in the aisles. So you can have big packets down the aisles, little packets so people can pick them up as they go along. Another good one is a hanging thing of Nurofen down the alcohol aisle, because everybody knows you buy 2 bottles of wine, you're going to need the Nurofen in the morning. So whose ibuprofen are they selling down the aisle, or whose paracetamol or aspirin? Whose is it? Is it going to be yours, or is it going to be their own brand? Well, you need to package it in a way that it's already done for them on the hanger already. So then they say, oh, I'll stock yours. You've just saved me a job. And you offer them a tiny bit better margin maybe. You say, I'll give you 30% margin if you buy this much, but I'll give you 35% margin if you buy this much, and I'll give you 40% margin if you buy it all, you see? And so there is always that back and forth with your retailer. So then we go on to planning and how you're going to plan where you want your things, where you want your product to sit in the shop, where you want it just to sit on the shelf. And so by planning, you're going to study the reports. So you're going to study what is your bestseller, what is your loser. So by loser, I mean, what is the thing that's not selling for you? No matter how much you try, why is it not selling? So maybe you could ask for honest critique from your retailer, from your consumer, from social media. You can ask, why isn't this selling? Why don't you want this product? And then you can make the decision, can you make it better? Or is it just better to cut your losses and say, you know what, I've got 4 flavours, but this one's just a loss. I'm just going to lose it, and I'm going to invest in a new flavour. You see? So it's just about being open to the fact that you might not be perfect, and your product might not be perfect, but you're going to strive for perfection. And by looking honestly and criticising your own brand with honesty, you will be able to then move forward and pick something better for the future by looking at the not so great things and not just focusing on the amazing bits. So then we look at your best performing location. So back at the map, which product is selling at the best location in the store? So is your 1 kilogram bag of flour selling really well, or is it not selling well? Can you move its location to improve its sale? Is the smaller bag selling better, but maybe the small bag's at head height, so everybody buys everything because it's here at the 5 to 6 foot height, whereas if you put it down there, nobody's going to pick it up. And so what is your best performing area? And you can work that out quite easily by your sales reports, and you just have to know where you've put that product in the supermarket. Will then be able to tell you whether or not it's selling in that area or not, or is it actually not the area, is it the product itself? But the only way to know that is by looking at the reports across more than one supermarket. So then the seasonal changes, we did talk about that before, the flow of your sales. So what's selling best at what time of year? Is your product time of year, maybe for you, is September and October because you have a pumpkin spice latte flavoured muffin. And so and so maybe that one sells best at that time of year. And so then you can predict how much to order for that time of year. And then that will help you with your sell-by dates, because you don't want to have your best seller going out of date at the first week of September, and then there's nothing left on the shelf, or your consumer's not going to be happy because they're not getting a long enough date on their product. So yes, by mapping out the seasonal changes, you can then predict what to order and when, and you can plan ahead. Don't underestimate the planning. For example, another example would be, say I've got a nutritional drink and I've got a gel that goes with that. And so I've got a drink, I've got a gel, and I'm going to bring out a recovery bar for after the workout. So I want to start pushing this on Christmas Eve. No, I'm going to start pushing it Boxing Day. I'm going to put a sale on it on Boxing Day. I'm going to do buy one and get the recovery bar free, because that's my new product. So on Boxing Day, immediately it's in everybody's faces. Everybody's going, oh, look at this. I'll grab that. I'll grab one of those, because everybody's saying, I must lose weight. Oh God, I'm so fat. I've eaten so much. And then everybody will hopefully buy your product. And so then that pulls them in. And you know that your product's going to sell that well because you've looked at the seasonal changes, and so you know you're not going to lose any money by doing buy one get one half price, because they're going to buy such a huge amount, because that's your busiest time of year. If you did buy one get one half price in, say, December, they're not going to buy as much bulk, because they're not buying for nutrition in December. Everybody's buying their Christmas presents and their turkeys and their sauce, and they're not worrying about losing weight, and they're not worrying about training for a triathlon, because they're just worrying about Christmas. As a consumer, you've got your blinkers on and you're just thinking about the next thing. You're not thinking to January. But as the brand, you have to be thinking ahead. Does that make sense? Yeah? Yeah? Am I talking too fast? Because I feel like I'm blah, blah, blah. Okay, good. Okay, so then by using those reports, you'll be able to plan how you want your product to look. And you'll be able to give this information to your retailer. So your retailer, you have to spend some time and energy training your retailer about your product. There's no point just shipping it off to the supermarket and hope that they're going to succeed with it. You need to go into the supermarkets, or if it's not you, have another brand ambassador who's going into the supermarkets and actually talking about your product to the people that are selling it. So the people on the shop floor, not just the CEO. It's all very well, you two might get very chummy and he'll say, yeah, I'll buy 100,000 of your units. That's great, thanks very much. But you need to make sure that all the kids and all the other people that are working in the supermarket believe in your product and understand it. Because they might not get it because they haven't tried it, because it's new, and they might not understand the message you're trying to put out with your product and your brand. So you need to really give the retailer the tools to then sell your product for you, because you're not going to be in every supermarket, are you? No. So you need to make sure that they understand about it and aren't selling the wrong thing to the wrong customer, because you don't want them to sell somebody your product who doesn't actually want it. They need to understand your product to then be able to sell it to the right consumer, not just to anyone. Does that make sense as well? So what's a good example? If I'd gone in for some sauce for my salad, but I said, I don't like spicy, I don't like it. But then the person on the shop floor said, just have this one. And then I go and I take it home. I'm not going to enjoy that sauce because I've specifically said I don't like spicy. So you need your retailer to understand your product, so then they sell it to the correct person, not just throw it out willy-nilly, because then I'm gone home, I haven't had a good experience, and I'm not going to become a loyal customer because I have said, they didn't know what they were talking about, and I didn't enjoy it, and therefore the worst thing I could do is then tell people I didn't enjoy it, and then the bad message starts, and people are more likely to complain than they are to rave, and that's something to remember as well going forward. Making sure you give your retailer things like point of sale, which I did talk about, having big placards, having stickers, maybe things that help the consumer find your product in the correct destination, and ensuring you're giving your retailer good sell-by dates. So you should come up with a plan. So where I've worked recently, I've come up, it's a bike shop and we sell nutritional food. So I will talk to the people that make it and I say, I won't buy it unless you give me 6 months. I want at least 6 months to be able to sell it. Whereas if you give me the product in the middle of March with only 2 months to sell it, I'm going to really struggle to sell a box of 20 like tablets or whatever, to go in drinks. So if you give your retailer a promise that you will always give them X amount of time, and then you stick to that, they will then trust you. And you can always sell them, if you then find that in your warehouse you've got stuff that's only got short life left on it, you can call round your retailers and say, would you like to buy this? It's only got 2 months on it, but I'll give you an extra 10% margin, because otherwise it's just going to sit in your warehouse and go off, and then you're going to have to throw it away. So it's much better to get your product out there where your retailer can sell it a little bit cheaper, you give it to your retailer a little bit cheaper, and you know who's going to buy it? Your discount customers. and then you're going to convert your discount customers into loyal customers. So it's all intrinsically linked together. So then you're going to have a planogram. So by using the things that we talked about before, your bestsellers, your losers, the things that you believe in, the things that aren't selling, and your shelf real estate, you can make a plan of how you want your stock to look. So this is a planogram that we used to use in retail. And so I would get this and I would literally send that to a retailer. And I would say, this is how I want the stock to look. And we'll do one for you for your food as well. Planograms are an international language of product placement and shelf space utilization. So what I mean is, you can send that to any shop in the whole world, and it's just pictures. You don't have to change the language, you don't have to, there's no language barrier. It's just pictures and there's just a plan. It's just a map of how you want your product to look on the shelf, because that's ultimately the message you're sending to the consumer. Is if you're not sending them how you want it to look, the retailer's not being armed with the correct tools. And remember the slide earlier, how you don't want your stock to look badly done. If you don't give them the tool to make it look beautiful, they're not going to make it look beautiful, and your stock won't sell. If it stands out and it looks good and it looks perfect, which is what we're all aiming for, then it will sell, and it will sell itself. You won't need somebody stood next to it saying, buy this, buy me, buy me. If it looks amazing and it stands out, it will sell itself. And so spending a little bit of time on a planogram is well worth it. It sends a professional, consistent message as well. If every store that you go into, the products are laid out in the exact same way, because it's consistent, and that in consumer psychology transfers to being trustworthy, which sounds maybe totally balmy, but it's true. If you go into the supermarket outside here and your product's laid out beautifully in one way, and you go into another supermarket and it's not laid out the same way, I might miss it, or I might not see it, or I might not pick it up. Whereas if it's laid out exactly the same in both stores, I feel like it's easier to shop, it's quicker to spot, and I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to buy it because it's exactly the same. And that's what I mean by brand consistency and display. So this is the kind of thing that we would use in a supermarket. So here is what would be the end of the aisle that we talked about, that's next to the till point. And it literally, like I said before, you draw on your products and exactly how you want them, how much space you need. Is it 4 foot? Is it 3 foot? Is it 16 foot? You have your products all laid out. You could label them. You could send actual photos, because when you're doing your branding and your marketing, you're going to have those photos saved on your computers. So you just literally drop them here. And so you want them 4 across, you want them 2 high, and then you want the other flavour, and then you want this flavour, and you want that flavour. And if you send this to the retailer then it's saved them a job, because you've saved them the job of planning, where am I going to put this new item? You've sent it to them. You've said, don't worry about planning, I've done it for you. Here's the planogram. And what you've done is you've looked at your bestsellers, you've looked at your losers, you've looked at what sells best and where, you've looked at the height of your consumer. If your product is more aimed towards women, you want it slightly lower. If your product is aimed towards men, put it on the top shelf, because predominantly men are taller. I don't like to be sexist, but you know. And then it's all about learning about your customer and then using all that information, and you can't plan enough. Use your planogram. It's a word, it's kind of a made up word, but it's based on plan and diagram. And so that's your diagram. You send that to your retailer and he will literally just put it out on the shelf exactly how you say. And then you can plan in your point of sale things. Plan in where you want to have those annoying little dangly cards saying this is on special offer, or the struck cards that are down the side of the item like this. So Snapple have done, see, so that stands out of the aisle. So as you're walking down the aisle, you can't help but notice Snapple, and you're going to go, oh, that's a beautiful display. And unfortunately I cut it out, but there was a sticker here on the floor as well. So it's literally, I walk over Snapple, and I get bombarded with Snapple in my face, and then guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to pick up Snapple and I'm going to try it. I'm going to take it home, I'm going to give it to my kids, I'm going to give it to my mum, I'm going to give it to everybody I know, because like it's in my face, I've got no choice. I have to buy it. And that is what point of sale is. It's convincing the customer to buy your product. So that's where your branding comes in. Your branding has to be obviously all tied in together. Your point of sale has to reflect the message you're sending on your packaging. So you don't want it to be totally different. This is obviously a good example because it's literally the bottles that you're selling here are here, and all this branding is exactly the same. It all flows through. There's no miscommunication. It's all very clean, all very clear what it is we're actually selling and who and why we're going to buy it. And so you want this also, it's like, I was trying to think of like a new digital way that POS is used, and it's a lot like, you know, when you're watching YouTube and a little call to action comes up and it says click here to subscribe, click here, click here. POS is literally the same thing, because you're walking along and it's going, buy me, buy me, buy me. And say, what are you going to do? You're going to go pick it up, you're going to look at it, because it's call to action. And even in this digital age, this is still relevant, because it's just like your annoying little pop-ups on your websites when you're listening to Spotify, something pops up and you think, oh, go away. But it knows you've already bought it, that's why they're there. So clever. But this is how you get there first. This is how you get them to buy the first time, because they're walking through the supermarket anyway, doing their food shop. So I've given you some examples of some POS that really do work. Obviously we've got the kind of hang tags that kind of sit on the edge of the label, kind of sticking out and wobbling around. They're actually called wobblers. And then you've got these over here which kind of split up the area, a lot like that previous Snapple page, and they stand out again from the aisle, and so then when people are walking down they can't help but notice that. It's in their eyesight, it's immediately in their psyche. They might not walk towards it on purpose because of that bit of POS, but it's immediately there, and then they might see it later on. So that's again where I said branding is important. They will say, oh, I think I saw that in the supermarket, because they saw your big struck card halfway down the aisle, and maybe they didn't even go down that aisle, but then they see your advert later on, online or on TV or wherever that is, and all the branding merges, and that's when your marketing and your merchandising all ties together and it's all worthwhile, and that's when people then buy. And then this one's a good example of hanging your product next to something that it could sell with. So say you're selling crackers, you want to hang your product next to the delicatessen, down the cheese aisle, maybe even down the wine aisle, because everybody loves wine, cheese and crackers. So you would hang that like this, quite simply, but look at this, this is literally a call to action. Do you need it? Do you want it? Yes, yes you do. You do want it, and you're going to put it in your basket, and you're going to go away and you're going to sell it and you're going to love it, and then you're going to talk about it. It's all linked, it's all the same path. So then we move on to training. So training your, not your consumer, sorry. I want you to invest time in training, not just your employees who are going to be out selling your product for you, not just the people that are being your brand ambassadors. You need to spend time training your retailers. Really invest in this, because by training your retailers, they're going to fall in love with your products, because they can see your passion. They can feel how excited you are about your product, and they will use that, and they will respect you for spending time with them and giving them your energy, and then they will then return that investment by selling your product for you. So if you have a product that maybe is quite hard to understand, by you going into the retailers and really pushing it and showing them how it works and why you've invented this product and why you've cultivated it and why it's out there and why they're selling it, then they can then translate that to all the consumers that come in. And the same thing with your employees. You need your employees to be as dedicated as you are and as excited as you are about your brand. And they need to really feel it and breathe it and sleep it and eat it all day, every day. Because if you have a loyal following of employees, that that energy that they have will then translate to your retailers as well, and ultimately to your consumers. And the better relationship you have with your employees and your retailers, the better your sales will be, because people will believe in you because you are believing in your product and you're investing time and energy into them, and they will ultimately respect that. And then freebies. Don't underestimate freebies. So go out into a marketplace and give out juice along the market, or go to a fair in the summer and hand out your lollipops. Maybe not full-size ones, just give out little tasters. You know, so when you're in the supermarket, often at home, I'll have some annoying person coming around with a piece of bread saying, would you like to try this bread? Do that. Do it. Because then the people will pick it up and they'll say, this is really nice. I'm going to go and buy this. And don't just have the freebies, have it in your hand and say, did you enjoy that? Here, buy it, put it in their basket for them. Push, 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 push. And by encouraging them to try it, you're immediately getting your brand out there, you're getting your message out there, and you can get valuable feedback as well from your consumer. So the consumer will say to you, oh, I didn't like that flavour. And you're just like, wow. Gosh, that hurt because it's my baby. I did this, I made this. Don't feel bad, it's good. You need critical feedback as much as you do positive feedback. You don't just want people to blow smoke up you, because it'll be great and you'll feel amazing and you'll be like, yes, my product's the most amazing thing in the world. But you're not getting critical feedback. You need critical feedback to then improve your product and to tailor your product to the needs of the consumer, to then convert those customers who have just tried into loyal customers, because that's what you want. You want a loyal following. And the same with your retailer. Make sure you go in and say the retailer is having a monthly meeting of all the managers, say to them, oh, I'll provide you some food for your meeting. And you can go in, you can provide them food that while they're having their meeting, they can be eating it. And you can give them, and you can say, can I give a 5-minute presentation on my product? Literally just a 5-minute, tiny weeny, quick presentation, because once they've tried it, hopefully those managers will then feed it down to the rest of the staff. Or another way you could do it is give out freebies in the supermarket, not just to the consumer, but also to all the retail staff that are working in that supermarket, and ask again the store manager if you could have 5 minutes and do a presentation to groups of the people working in the store that day, maybe set up in the staff room, so then you can give them little talks and say, this is my product, it's brand new, here, have some. And they're on their lunch, so they're already hungry, so you give them your product and they go, wow, this is amazing, because they're starving. And then you've got them. And so not only have you sold to all the consumers downstairs on the shop floor, you've also sold to the retailers and all the young teenagers that are working in there, who usually just grunt and don't do anything. They've bought into your product as well. That's fantastic, because they're the ones that are all on social media as well. And then you want the managers to buy in, and that's where you do your managers meetings. So don't stop thinking outside the box. Don't stop thinking, oh, well, they've bought my product now. I'll send my attention over here to the next supermarket. I'm okay over there. Don't ignore your retailer, because your retailer is they're the ones that are selling your product for you while you're off around the rest of the country trying to get your items into other supermarkets. Make sure you go back to your retailer and you keep cultivating that relationship, because you don't want them to drop your product, or you don't want them to not be selling. They need to be selling as hard as you are. Maybe probably a bit less, because they're not you and you're going to be pushing the hardest. But you need to just send them a little email, say, hi, how are you? How are the kids? I know you don't really care, but they don't know that. They will appreciate the fact that you have emailed them to check in on them. And you can say, oh, I've got a special offer coming up. I thought I'd let you know first because you're my best customer. Things like that. It works. And then, yeah, so that kind of brings me to the end of the whole merchandising and how we're going to think about it. And so I do want you to come away from today remembering how important the planning process is behind merchandising, and how important it is that you're getting your product in the right location, in the right supermarket, in the right marketplace. You know, if you want to sell in a market, that's fine, as long as it's selling, you know. and it's critical to the success of your business. I cannot hammer that home enough. You must keep planning, and you must keep going back and saying, how can we change this? How can we make this better? How can we make this perfect? And don't overlook those tiny little details. If something doesn't look perfect and you think, oh, I've been at this for so long, we'll just send it like that. Let's say it was the packaging, and you've sent it back and forth between you and the designer, and you're just thinking, you know what, I've had enough of this. This has taken 6 months. That's fine. It's not fine. It has to be perfect. It has to look amazing, because that is essentially what people are buying into, the look of your product and how it's sitting on the shelf or hanging or sitting next to the till point. Don't ever settle for second best. Keep pushing, and don't ever underestimate the little tiny weeny details, because people pick up on them. And yes, so then the difference between your planning and not investing enough time is essentially selling and not selling. It's exactly the same thing. If you're not planning, you won't sell. And if you're not planning, you're not going to win. That's it.